right, everybody. Welcome to the show this week. I'm Gary.
This is Austin.
We are Midwest Mics coming at you. Before we get going with the show this week, we do have our first sponsor. So if you are looking for a DJ, call DJ Showtime. He does weddings, birthdays, special events, bar and club events, music of all genres. You'll always have a great time with DJ Showtime. He started DJing on Carnival Cruises back in 2005, so lots of experience. Give him a call at 816-260-2056, or you can find him on Twitter at DJ Showtime KC34. So make sure you go check him out, and thanks to DJ Showtime for sponsoring the show.
That's right. And he actually did your wedding.
Yeah, he did my wedding.
It was awesome.
Yeah, he did. He did a great job at my wedding. Also did another wedding we went to. That was a lot of fun. Another friend of ours.
That's
so,
right. That's right.
Yeah, we've actually heard him. I know he does a lot out in the Warrensburg area on the weekends with the college out there. So, if you need a DJ for an event, just check him out. Give him a call. 816-260-2056. All right, moving on to the show. We got a guest back this week, Coach William Harris. He's currently the head coach at Van Horn. Been on the show with us one time by phone, one time live in studio. So thanks for coming back, Coach.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, we kind of followed your season, and talked about you guys a lot on the show this year. But you guys finished 7-4. Had some big wins, a couple tough losses. Why don't you kind of talk about your season from your perspective and then some postseason awards?
Yeah, I mean, when I sat in here earlier in the year, kind of that preseason deal, I knew we had a chance to win some games and have a pretty decent season. So I would say it played out pretty much the way we thought it would. We did have some close games where we had a chance to win. We just couldn't finish a couple of them, which made our record a whole lot better than it was. But we did have some success, which led to us having some playoff success. So we were able to win our first playoff game in school history under this current format that Misha plays under. So we accomplished some things on the field as a team, and we also had some guys win some awards at the end of the year. So I believe we had, if I remember correctly, we had about 15 guys that were all conference this year. So we did a good job in our conference schedule. We didn't win the conference, but we did have some guys that played well in the conference schedule, so they earned those awards. Towards the end of the year, we also did our all-district. We had several kids make all-district. I think we had 6 first-team all-district players this year, which is the most I've had since I've been there in the 3 years that I've been there. We actually ended up with a kid that also made All-State. Our quarterback, Sean Ross, was third-team All-State. So we had a lot of team success, which, when you have a lot of team success, it leads to a lot of individual accolades and awards. So we had a good season, successful season, something that we can build on for the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Winning that first playoff game in school history, that's a huge accomplishment. Sometimes, in programs that have been down, you got to kind of learn how to win those games and be in those games and play in those games because those kids are not used to it. So, that's a big deal getting that first one. And then unfortunately, season came to an end versus Harrisonville. A team that is perennial powerhouse in this area. They've been in a lot of playoff games. Coaches and players, and they have a long history, won some state titles down there. So, it's tough going up against those teams. But yeah, great season for you guys, and glad to hear. So, who are some guys you're looking at coming back next year? For your team.
The bulk of our team is made up of sophomores, the kids that'll be juniors. So we have a ton of kids that are young kids that played a lot, got a lot of experience over the last couple of years that we're looking forward to. We have a defensive end who actually was first team all district this year, who he was almost all state, but how the voting worked out, he didn't end up making it. But he's a kid that we're depending on the defensive side of the ball. So his name's Jason Skivers. He's a pretty good kid, weight room kid. Was always looking to get in the weight room, getting stronger. I think he squatted like 445.
Oh man,
in the weight room. So he's a dude. So he gets after it. But we got a lot of young kids like that. We have a sophomore running back that is just as strong as him. Just still figuring out how to play running back and getting used to playing varsity football. But towards the end of the year, he started coming on. So we've got a lot of young kids that we're expecting to lean on next year that'll be juniors. So we'll be a more experienced, more mature team next year, which looks to benefit us. Our O-line and D-line, for the most part, we've got both of them back, and that's the heartbeat of the team. So if we can get those guys back and we can get those guys to develop and get better and get stronger in the weight room, we expect to be successful again next year.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm glad you're giving the O and D-line a little love there. Being a D-line here at Shawnee Mission East, one of the things I'm kind of worried about going into next year, because we play a three-man front, and two of our three guys were seniors. A two-time All-State kid, P.J. Spencer, and Ashton Andino, our nose. So those two guys, had a great career here, and I wish I could get them another year. But unfortunately, they got to move on. But we got Lee Marshall. He was a sophomore, started all our games at the other defensive end. He'll be back as a junior next year. So looking forward to getting him, working hard this offseason and getting better. But yeah, O&D line, it's always good when you're getting those guys back. So, all right, anything else you want to throw out about your team, or did you guys have what did you feel like your biggest win was this year?
I think the playoff win. I mean, it's got to be the playoff win.
Right.
We set goals at the beginning of the season. I told the kids, these were our three goals, and one of our goals was win a district championship, and we fell short of that. But I mean, to get that experience, like you said, to get that experience on that Friday night, big game, big pressure-packed game. We beat Raytown South, which is a school that last time we played Raytown South, which was my first year there, we played them first round of playoffs. They beat us like 44-7, and it probably could have been 88-7. So it was a big win for us. I think it was a big momentum shift for our program. So I would say that was our biggest win of the season.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I had circled too, on my notes, and that was a huge win for you guys, and I was glad to see you guys get that. So let's move on. Talk a little college football. Just finished with the national championship. Clemson kind of surprised a lot of people and beat Bama. Everybody thought Bama was head and shoulders better than everybody else, and Clemson kind of came out. So what were your thoughts on the playoff, the 14 playoff in that game? And
I think the system's broken. I think I follow people on Twitter a lot and see the tweets, and everybody wants to expand the playoff system. I think expanding the playoff system will be cool because you would get more teams in. But at the same time, I think at the end of the day, whether it's 4 teams or 16 teams, I think the 2 teams that played on Monday night are the 2 teams that are always going to be the 2 teams that make it. I think they're in a different class, and I think there's another tier under them, which is probably Georgia and maybe a couple other guys. But other than that, I don't think it would matter how many teams are in it. I think those 2 teams are the best teams in college football year in and year out because of recruiting.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, as a fan, I would love to see 8 or 16. Right. But I'm with you. I mean, I think those definitely, especially this year, I mean, they proved those were the 2 best teams, out of the field.
Yeah, and the thing is too, if we still had the old BCS system, we probably would have got the same 2 teams, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we kind of did get a playoff game, an extra playoff game when we got to watch Georgia play Bama, and I think Georgia playing, just watching Monday, I think Georgia playing Bama actually helped Clemson out because Clemson got to take some notes about what Georgia was doing against Bama's offense because Georgia had slowed them down a little bit, right? And then they brought Hurts in. But something interesting to think about is where does this Clemson team rank all time? It's way high, right?
Yeah,
we thought Bama was that team because this is their best offense they've ever had. And so I was thinking the other day, I'm like this Clemson team probably could have beat any of those USC teams, right? That Carroll had.
Yeah, man.
I'm a USC guy, so
yeah,
that team that lost to Texas, I put them up on a pedestal.
I don't even know how they lost. I'm sitting there. Vince Young was just magical,
right? It was Vince Young. He was the guy that
he played out of his mind.
Absolutely.
And it's also a different time period. But I was thinking out of the quarterbacks those USC teams had, Tuia's probably better than all those guys, right? Leinart,
I think Tua's pretty good.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
maybe not Palmer. Like from way back, but like
early Palmer, but
Lion-
Tua's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Tua's pretty good. I mean, he's definitely
Well, he got shut
the
down.
best quarterback Nick Saban has had at Alabama.
Absolutely.
yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
this was the first time in the Nick Saban tenure at Alabama that they've been beat by double digits.
They were saying I saw ESPN
So-
the next day said this is the first time he's been beat by 14 or more since he was coaching the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like,
So,
whoa!
first time
So, I mean,
in this era, and you know it's funny you bring up that argument because both of these teams, Clemson and Alabama, are 55-4 since we've instituted the playoff.
And 2 national
They both
championships.
won 2 national championships. In 2015, Clemson lost to Bama. Bama lost to Ole Miss, who was ranked 15 at the time. 2016, Clemson lost to an unranked Pitt team in a conference game. Bama then lost to Clemson in the championship game. Pitt finished 8-5 that year. Just a note there. And then in 17, Syracuse and Bama both beat Clemson that year. And then Bama lost to Auburn. And that Syracuse team finished 4-8. So it's not like they had an outstanding year. And then obviously this year, Bama's only loss was to Clemson. So that's the 4 losses. You know, Bama's 2 of them to Clemson and 2 of them to ranked teams. Clemson's 4 losses, 2 to Bama and then 2 to unranked conference opponents.
You see, and that's why I say, like, Alabama, they play in the toughest conference in college football, and the only team that can beat them is Clemson. And that's why I say it's them 2 and then it's everybody else.
Yeah.
Clemson slips up. They do that. They slip up during the regular season, but because they start out ranked so high, they can make a mistake early and still get in, and they deserve to be there. But
Yeah. I mean, it's hard when your opponents are inferior week after week after week.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked a lot about Bishop Miege on our show, high school team locally here that, has won 5 state championships in a row in 4A. And it's like that's part of the magic, I think, of what they've done is they play some teams that, looking at it on paper, those teams can't compete with Miege. But what Coach Holmes and his staff have done and just keeping them where they have not slipped up, week after week.
You think part of them not slipping up is during the season they schedule like those tough games like they scheduled Rockhurst this year? You think?
Well,
that,
yeah, I mean, them
keep,
being in the EKL helps.
that helps.
Definitely.
That helps keep them sharp for
Yeah.
when they go. They maybe stay in that mindset, so when they get to play the schools that are like their size or whatever, they just roll them.
Yeah.
But I think that's what they did. They rolled all the way through the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, they do it every year in 4A. But, yeah, Clemson, I mean, so if you had to pick one of these 2 coaches, Clemson, Dabo Swinney, or Nick Saban, I mean, who are you going to roll with?
I think it's a tough question. I don't think there's a right answer.
Yeah.
I think it's about who you like because whose coaching style you like. Because Dabo seems more of a modern players. I don't want to say players coaches. I don't think he's a players coach, but I think he's a cooler coach. Like I would want to go like, man, I feel like, man, I could have fun at Clemson, whereas I feel like with Alabama, if I want to get to the league and I want a coach that's going to push me really, really hard and get me to the league, and it feels like he leans more towards getting a kid to the league than he does making sure he has a great experience. And that's not a knock on Nick Saban, but I would personally like to play for Dabo. I like Dabo a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. I feel like they're polar opposites in their coaching styles, just from what I see from the outside.
Yeah.
I mean, and even some of the kids for Clemson, were saying after the game, if you want to coach, it's going to dance in the locker room. Come to Clemson.
Who's his OC? Or is he's not the OC, is he? No.
I think he has an OC. I mean, I know his defensive coordinator is Venables,
That's
who,
I don't know who that is.
is
Lights out.
yeah. I don't know how that guy, doesn't have a head coaching
Well,
job.
but that's the greatest thing. If I saw a report or I read something on him, like he doesn't want to be a head coach. Like that's got to be the greatest situation. First of all, he's the second highest paid D coordinator in college.
Okay.
So he's getting his money like a head coach, but he doesn't want to be a head coach. Like he's got his family there, and his kids are in high school, and his kids got an offer to Clemson. Like he doesn't want to be a head coach, so he puts all his energy into being a DC, which has got to be the coolest thing for Dabo. It's
Yeah.
gotta be.
I mean, that would have to be. I mean, I know typically successful programs, I mean, they're losing guys every year. I mean, Nick Saban, I don't think he's